I I'm having trouble doing anything.
Oh, that's me.
How do I flip this? Hey, so
How's it going?
hey, all right. How are you?
We meet virtually.
Yeah, that's very good. I'm happy with that. A lot of technical difficulties this afternoon, but
That's all right. Do you want to call me back? I'll wait for you.
um, does this Facebook format work? I mean, just to chat for a little bit.
This is good. Yeah.
Okay, I have no idea of the quality of this versus Skype or anything.
Okay.
But yeah,
Well, you could watch it later, and if you so feel it looks good, right? Or
yeah. I mean, you look great to me now, and this is Tanner back here, recording.
Hi.
hi, how's it going? How are you?
Good. How are you?
Yeah. So
You guys are around.
okay. Yeah. You are perfectly well in frame. I think you probably have some practice with this if you're giving lessons and stuff online, right?
Yeah. So this is how I usually teach like this.
Yeah. Great. So yeah, I guess the video we're trying to make today is about the Gibson Les Paul specifically, the one that I have. I'll hold that now. Might as well.
So what is it like? You're asking me what my history with the Les Paul is, what I think of it, or whatever.
Yeah, definitely that.
Hey, Sean.
Yeah.
Can I see if I can get the video to flip?
Yeah.
Because I think I
Okay.
know what's wrong.
I've got a Les Paul over here.
Yeah.
A mock Les Paul that's made up of parts. If you want me to grab that, I can do that.
Oh yeah, definitely.
That'll have a little more of a continuity to it.
Sure.
Okay, just a second. I'll go grab it.
Okay. Yeah, you're good. Thank you.
Aha. Okay. Great. Yeah, that'll read a little better.
Okay. Nice.
Okay, let's see what we got here. All right.
Yeah. So this Les Paul you've got now. What can you say about this?
Are you taping or are you just asking?
We're
rolling.
Yeah, we're rolling. Yeah.
Okay. Go. Why don't you say that one more time? We'll start.
Yeah. What's the deal with this Les Paul?
Okay. Well, this was presented to me from a dear friend, and he put this together. So this is a mutt right here. Beautiful pickups. Everything is nicely done. All right.
Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah, beautiful.
So yeah, it kind of the feeling harkens back to when I was a young skater and I was playing in rock bands, and, kind of driving in vans around different states and things.
Yeah.
Because quite a few years I've been playing other models too, but there's just something about the Les Pauls. If I play this through a solid state amp or a tube amp, it's either way it's wonderful. All right.
Right.
Just the quality, the output of the pickups, and just the what would you call it? The solidity of this thing. You know it?
Oh yeah.
It's heavy, but it feels balanced, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. Now, can you see me too, or am I like I see that I have some stuff over in the corner
I just
there.
see an amp. I just see
Oh.
the amp right there.
Yeah, Tanner, can you help with this?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I just realized that. Yeah, sorry.
That's a nice amp, though.
Yep, DeVille. Yep, that's a good amp.
All right. I think we're good.
Sure.
Okay, great. Yeah, sorry about that too. So
No problem.
I've got this Les Paul here, the gold top.
Oh yeah. Oh,
Yeah, it's a '57 reissue.
That
That
was actually the type of Les Paul I wanted to get when I was younger, a gold top.
yeah.
There was a rock band in the area think his name was Bob Strunk. He was the singer. The band was called Unot, and I believe he had a gold top.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember they would play all the dances and things in the area. This is in the 70s, a long time ago. And I remember looking at that guitar and going, I want one of those. That's a beautiful.
Right, I know my dad got this one like at like or it was an online dealer like American Musical Supply, and it was like a scratch and dent deal, so that was good. You know, save a little money on that.
It takes a little worry out of it then, doesn't it?
Oh yeah.
You can just move forward and not be so.
Right, feel less bad taking it out to gigs and everything. Yeah.
Oh.
So I wanted to ask you, you know, like kind of your background in music and to kind of set the scene for the, you know, the stuff you were doing in the 70s, and cuz that I think that was, you know, in my opinion the biggest, you know, overdriven Les Paul period for music. Definitely that was a golden age.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask maybe a kind of stereotypical question of whether you saw the Beatles on Ed Sullivan. I thought of that this morning.
Oh, absolutely. I saw
Okay.
Ed Sullivan. And the electricity went right through my body. So, absolutely.
Nice.
A cousin gave me 2 albums. One was a Disney album, and the other album was the Beatles' second album, it was called. And then it had another Beatles album stuffed in the sleeve. And I totally freaked out. And I loved Lennon-McCartney songwriting combination, and I really grew to love George Harrison's approach to spirituality, as well as like when remember the album All Things Must Pass. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Big anniversary now, and that made a huge. I remember buying Abbey Road when it came out, so it was a big deal.
Yeah, we're gonna put a original copy of All Things Must Pass, I think, in the background when we film the actual video. I think for this guitar.
Oh, too cool.
Yeah. So
Isn't it
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I guess other than the Beatles, what really, you know, lit a spark in you to start playing music and stuff?
Well, what really made a huge impression upon me, other than the Beatles, was Jimi Hendrix. And the band of Gypsies is one of my favorite all-time desert island.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Why I love it so much is the combination of Buddy Miles and Billy Cox with him. It's this earthy, funky, just, you know, gritty, beautiful, and ethereal, and like Machine Gun and Message of Love, and oh my God, and Who Knows, all those songs. I can still listen to them now, and it almost changes your consciousness. That's what it did to me. All right, I acted really strongly to music when I was younger. It would like stop me. I would stop. All right, and it was almost like, you know, alpha, beta, theta, delta. You know.
Yeah.
It put me in another brain wave. All right.
Right.
And I would just entrain with it, lock into it. It was amazing. But Hendrix was huge. Clapton, Cream.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Also, I had this other side, which was Miles Davis, John Coltrane. So I'm kind of a mutt. And then I started listening to a lot. I would even go to the library, since it's pre-internet. I'd go to the library and get scores of Indonesian and African music.
Yeah. And
study the scores, because there's a classical composer, his name is Steve Reich, music for drumming. And I highly recommend that. Even though Robert Fripp says it doesn't directly, he was aware of it. Maybe it's not a huge influence, but you can hear that gamelan, 2-guitar, you know, weaving, jigsaw playing.
Yeah.
I have a video on YouTube that Jim Gilson had produced a show. It was called The Guitar Players, and it demonstrates a little bit of that. It's called Nozomi Part 3, I think. So if you're curious and you look at that, that'll show you how I was trying to incorporate finger style. Then there's this other group of players: Michael Hedges, Pierre Ben Susan, Alan Holdsworth, all of these people. So I had this, whether or not it's classical, jazz, rock, R&B, the staple singers, gospel. All right.
Yeah.
I'm just mutt, you know what I mean? So it's just like, and that's what's been my goal, I think, most of my life, is to just amalgamate all these different elements. And it also, if you're curious why, there's a methodology behind this. It's the mythology of, have you ever heard of a book called A Hero with a Thousand Faces? Joseph Campbell, his work. He taught
Okay.
at Sarah Lawrence College, and it was all about mythology. All
Mhm.
right. So the underlying thing is, what are the, what's the hero behind the mask? I have a bunch of artwork that deals with this too. What's the central element behind the mask? All right. And what's our unifying principle, or what animates us? What electrifies us? That's common. So,
Yeah.
so that's why I take a look at all these different cultures too. Brazilian, West African, you know, wherever. All right.
Yeah, and I can definitely, having seen you play live like at least 100 times, I can see that, and right,
Thank you, sir.
right, in every performance you're drawing from, everywhere that you've ever heard from, I think, and
Yeah.
that's what I try to think
Yeah.
of when I play too, is just kind of like emotionally where do you want to go, and then if you've heard music from all around the world, you can try and draw from that if you've tried to study it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think of it as a prayer. There's a video we have on YouTube from my Two Steps Closer to Zen CD, and it's called Nando. And all you hear are this cacophony. Eddie Garcia made this collage for me. I described what I wanted. He did this beautiful job. And what it is, you hear French, Spanish, English. You hear all these voices, this cacophony of sound, right? And it was like, what happens when the soul starts to enter this realm, this dimension?
Yeah.
And it starts to hear all these elements of the world, all right? And then before it's born, you know what I mean? Before we enter into this our time here, all right?
Yeah.
So it was kind of like a prayer. And when I'm playing, that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to draw upon the human experience, my own, of course, but it's so rich, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I remember there wasn't like that huge resurgence in Americana, all right? So now it's huge, right?
Mm-hmm.
And even blues now. I remember the impact that Stevie Ray had when he came out. The whole excitement again,
Yeah.
Very, 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 very cool to have been lucky enough to live as long as I have to see the movements, the ebbs and flows.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think going back to Hendrix and stuff too, just to jump off from there, yeah, that Band of Gypsy stuff, to me, I think it had the same effect, where those three players really like honed into something that was really, I think, unique.
They locked in.
Yeah, and that was a whole cross section of lots of things too, blues and soul music, and just I want to say like modal music of a sort, just the kind of droning and using a lot of things they'd heard. So, and then on the other hand, though, the equipment that Hendrix was using must have had an effect on you in the 70s too. That Marshall sound, which is another aspect.
Yeah, I had a 50-watt double stack, or two cabinet 50-watt head.
Yeah.
And through the years, I wish I would have just had a room and I stuffed things in the room when I wasn't using it anymore, and 40 years later pulled it back out again instead of selling stuff. You know what I mean? So, but it was the guitar, a chord, maybe a wah-wah pedal into a power attenuator, because I had to start doing that because we were playing in clubs. Unless I threw a blanket over the cabinet, it was just too loud. You know what I mean? But there was this thing that was great, though. There's this, and you know this from playing probably a Les Paul, right? There's a chain reaction that happens between the guitar and the amp. And when you're just using modeling stuff, no offense, all right?
Yeah.
But there's this thing that happens where, I've heard stories where, like Nugent or different artists would put an X on the stage where the feedback spots were. You know what I mean? There's this thing where you can just get it to sustain and sing. And if you're, just nice two the humbucking pickups, but the single coil too. What I love about the Strat too is the different tonalities.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. So, yeah. I mean, just to get us up to the point when you were in a band with my dad would be interesting. Because
all right.
Yeah, I was talking. I'm going to interview him after you actually for this video
cool.
too. So
Right.
we're going to have a little bit of a reunion of sorts, just through this video, I guess.
Well, this is cool. His son is interviewing me, and it doesn't seem that long ago that is it the Tobacco River in Beaverton or something?
Yeah,
like that?
Tobacco. Yeah.
We used to rehearse, so I mean,
Yeah.
it's something.
Where would you rehearse then? for that group or
At the other guitar player's house is Brian Hankey.
Brian Hankey?
So
Yeah,
they lived right. Was it like a little canal or something right there? It's been so many years.
yeah. That's kind of by my dad's house too. Just yeah, I can picture. I don't know what his house was like or anything, but yeah,
Yeah.
just a nice little snaking river and yeah,
Yeah, so we used to rehearse there before we took it out to, schools and halls and different things like that. So, but it was quite an educational time because when you're a young kid and you get a call from your manager and he says you have to fill in for a band who's not going to show up, and you find out that it's Van Halen and Bob Seger, right? Oh my God,
yeah,
And there's 23,000 people there, and you just come up on stage with your one guitar, you know what I mean? And you're like, oh my God. Then we played with Cheap Trick and UFO and quite a few people. So it was kind of an educational thing for me. It also put it was a stark moment for me because I had taken music theory classes in high school, all right? And then I went on to take art or jazz courses with Gene Parker. He's a phenomenal jazz musician in Toledo, Ohio. But so I knew, my church modes, arpeggios, scales. I could, break down the song, tell you how it was formed, all right, and then have choices to solo over the top, all right,
yeah,
which was nice instead of just learning what was on the record, okay.
right, true.
But it was still humbling to somebody. I cannot describe the power of an Eddie Van Halen, a young, healthy Eddie Van Halen when they came out. It was spooky almost, all right.
Yeah, and you got to meet him obviously because I've seen the picture a
Yeah,
lot. And...
briefly. I talked longer with his brother.
Oh, okay.
This is before they went to Japan. So he was really kind, very nice.
Was that like 78 then, or when they kind of?
Yeah, let me see. I graduated in '76. I was in the band pretty much after high school for a couple of years. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great. So yeah, did you felt that? I imagine you were playing a Les Paul when you were playing the, in front of 23,000 people and your Marshall.
Yeah, I had a Sunburst standard, but the only problem with that one was this is before people heard about the Floyd Rose, and they had fine tuners on it. I actually had my Les Paul sent to Floyd Rose himself, and he installed it on my guitar.
Oh wow!
And but it was before the fine tuners.
Yeah.
So you had to tune it up, clamp it down, and if it wasn't correct, you had to redo it again. So it was kind of a lot of work. All right. But
Yeah.
I did learn my lesson because when you cut a hunk of wood or you take away from the mash, you take away from the tone.
True.
Right?
Yeah.
Now a lot of people will buy these guitars from Floyd Rose. They just plug it in right away, and then it sounds fine to them. But if you had that guitar in its body's entirety before you did that to it, you would notice there's quite a difference in tone.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't do that to a guitar anymore. I buy guitars that are different, but I don't bastardize them anymore.
I know.
I learned the hard way.
I feel that too, and maybe it's just generations of people who've done it and regretted it or something, and I know about it. I mean, my dad will customize guitars, but it's not like to just change the pickups a little, or
Oh, that's fine.
that's fine. But
Some that with older stuff too. You're right.
yeah. So I try to get like different stuff, and just like enjoy it as it is. Hopefully it'll.
Absolutely. And it's a good excuse for you and I to have a few different instruments to explore.
Yeah. I've been making this series, and it's like, yeah, I'm not. I know, I'm not bragging that I have a bunch of guitars, but like I think that my dad started me on that path because he was really supportive when I wanted to, learn, and he's like,
Yeah, wonderful.
he had a few instruments, and he's just like, oh, you want to try this? If it was cheap enough and stuff, just like I want to encourage you, and so that's where I am now. This is gonna be part of episode 10 of this series. So I mean, I've just found instruments very interesting. Yeah.
And also too, because I teach and make a living, but when I play out, if I'm not doing shows of my own music, I'm playing music, out doing casuals and things. And I have a Godin nylon string electric, and it's so perfect for almost like how would I describe it? Like a Mediterranean feel, because I'm a fingerstyle player primarily, and when I'm just doing percussion with a nylon string guitar and upright bass, it's a glorious sound. So then I have a telly break that out, and now I'll play different. I'll do more of a bluesier double stops and things like this, a little more aggressive. And then if I'm on my Squire Strat, which I've had for its SQ series, really unique guitar because it's so heavier Squire than I played others. But it's all been redone.
Oh yeah.
And I've had that for 30 years or something like that. So
Mm-hmm.
that's like so flat that I do a lot of chords and intervals spaced wide. So I have it really low, almost like a piano. You know what I mean? Real even all the way across.
Yeah.
So that's different instruments. I play different heavy, and then I have a Paul Reed Smith also. So that has a really beautiful sound.
Yeah. Yeah, I appreciate. That's what I've been saying. Doing this series, I'm just like I realize how much you play completely differently on every instrument.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you might have a kernel technique or an identity, but you'll explore different tributaries with those instruments. You're right.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm just. What else did I want to ask you? Because it's just been good, like just riffing. I was
All right.
I was just
No,
write
that's great.
write little things down. But obviously you've covered a little bit like why the Les Paul is like so important to getting a certain sound and so unique.
Well, there's something like if you listen to Peter Green, all right, from Fleetwood Mac, or if you listen to Jimmy Page, I know he used Telecaster and different guitars and stuff too, but there's a certain sound with the Les Paul too. Even when he's using the Tele, you ever notice that it's not too distorted? There's a clarity to it,
Mm-hmm.
And even though Yngwie says that he uses a lot of gain, there's this clarity, all right? A lot to do with your technique. But I noticed this huge movement in guitar players where they would just use tons of gain, all right? And just, it was more from pedals and things. But there's something about the Les Paul and a tube amp too that is just glorious. You know what I mean? Like the early ZZ Top stuff I was listening to in memory of Dusty Hill.
Right.
Their
Yeah.
very first album, like, very loud, and it very cool.
Yeah.
So even though I am somewhat like this, if people watch me, it's kind of like, how would you describe the music that you see me play? It's kind of, what would you say?
Oh, I don't know. There's times where it's like, I would say it's partly intellectual. Like you are thinking about the smartest notes to play sometimes, and you have really nice chord voicings. But then you'll like dig into like your wah wah pedal or something and just be like, yeah, you're channeling the Hendrix or whoever.
Yeah.
And that's like going back to like maybe your earliest influence. I mean, so yeah, I've enjoyed that about seeing you play. It's like you'll have a really nice clean tone with like a jazz chorus, or
Yep.
but then you'll bring in whatever Fender amp you have. I remember, and just dig in certain different ways. So it's like I think it's all just kind of like an emotional expression, and you just use it. I think it's just according to the piece. You're trying to serve the piece at the time.
That's true.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
You paint with the frame what you see for the picture, and that's one thing I really always admired about like George Harrison and players like Mike Campbell from Tom Petty's band.
All right. Yeah.
You could sing their solos. I don't mean them just doing the melody, but really clever. In, out, in, out.
Yeah.
Not this kind of overindulgence. Even though I love jazz, but even then, I love it when players make a strong statement within a certain period of time to an arc in a story.
Right. I think that's how my playing has ended up being described by some people. Like my soloing and stuff is just very lyrical, just kind of trying to. Right. If I'm not singing with my voice, then I want to be singing on the guitar. I'm looking for a very melodic style. Like I think Thelonious Monk said, just always play the melody. So I read a book about him, and I'm that's really good advice for anybody.
When I do a chord melody piece, I'm just like but then doing is I learn the melody first, then harmonize it, reharmonize it, or actually even bastardize it, just change it almost
Yeah.
into another song. We have this thing in the band that's kind of a juvenile sense of humor. What I'll do is I'll try to do songs that people don't know what the songs are right away, almost, like
Yeah.
a different intro, or bridge, different whatever, and then reharmonize them, or just a good song is malleable. You know what I mean? I think you can do different things with it, right?
Yeah, it'll hold up. Like I've heard so many versions of like Hank Williams songs by like all different kinds of people, and it's like, wow, those are just good songs, obviously, because they'll hold up to
Yeah.
anything.
Isn't that the truth?
Yeah.
Yeah, good song's a good song. And that's been my goal, is to, in composition, I think, more than anything. I'll have guys that say, why don't you wail more? Why don't you, or doing this or whatever, and I'll just think, I am in a way, I'm playing all these like voicings and more one things moving at the same time, but there's a price to be paid if you try to have a smooth, like flowing style. All right, it's not. It's like here's an analogy. Okay, a bunch of people, they're on vacation. They go to like an amusement park. All right, so you go into this amusement park. Everyone wants to buy the ride on the super high fast, ride. But then there's this little ride over in the corner that's like a meditation center, all right? And you get to go there and find out about who you are. You get to face your dark side and all this stuff. Who the hell wants to do that? You know what I mean? I mean, that's what it seems like society is kind of, sadly, and don't get me wrong, I know people work really hard. They should do what they can do, But I think that the interior, digging and exploring within, you're going to hit that chord that's, those commonalities,
Yeah.
And I think really worth it in music. What a wonderful tool, isn't it, to be able to explore the spirit that way?
Yeah, I love it a lot, and just I think certain guitars do that for me. And if I were to pick up more instruments, I used to play more like drums and stuff, and that's another. I think any instrument you could pick up the spoons, and you could really be saying something about yourself or society, and so it's like, yeah, I mean, I'm making all these like gear specific videos, but having gone through, I'm like 32 years old now, and I think I'm old enough to like be going back to the way I thought of stuff probably in childhood, and just saying like, okay, what's really at the core here is like what it means to you, and what you're saying with it, whatever it is, whatever it could be visual art, audio art, writing, and anything. Just talking to people.
Yeah.
It's all just like you're getting at a point. So
It's the art of life. The art of life.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's the way it goes. We're only here for a little while. You're in the midst of like a real, in 20s, 30s, 40s. That's a real special time, and not that before isn't and after isn't, but I mean for making your mark out in the world. You know what I mean? So I'm entranced by it. I love what it does to me. I love how it feels, and it's what a beautiful way to communicate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But it's up to me too. It's humbling because
yeah.
what your goals are. If you just want to have fun and high five and play some, like cover tunes and stuff, that's great. I have a wonderful time. You give people entertainment, and they work hard. But there is another thing too, and it's like whether or not you're into film, all right, the visual arts, the written word,
Mm-hmm.
okay, all those things can stir and raise your vibration. It's not just about being entertained or getting attention or something. It's about humming at a higher rate, which attracts other things to hum at a higher rate.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean, look, follow me. It means let's make a collective together that can do more than just a bass line. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like when you are able to be the most yourself positively, then
Yep.
that attracts other people and encourages them to be themselves, and then you are vibrating at a higher frequency. Then you're able to cut through some BS, and yeah.
Yep. And like attracts like. So I think that's kind of one of the reasons why I think we're here, is to advance consciousness, all right? In ourselves first, of course, because that's paramount. You can't can't. You got to wipe your mirror clean before the glass clean before the rays can come shining through it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, and it's a continuous thing. You know, I would never, you know, make the claim that I'm there. I've got a long way to go. So it's
Sure.
But
Yeah.
but there's never not something to work on.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. That's the work of life. Yeah, and that's where having a Les Paul through a Marshall can help too. When you're working
Oh,
through,
yeah.
you can work through a lot through that
I wish
specifically.
everybody could feel that when you hit that note and it just starts to sustain beautifully through that amp, all right?
Yeah, that's
And yet, because the different rooms you would play in, the different clubs, the different auditoriums, certain places have gorgeous sound.
yeah.
And also work with good soundmen. They are so important. They're just like a member of the band. If you can have somebody that really, I had an engineer walk up to me and he looks at my amp and go, "Oh, you got a JC120. You're going to need 2 mics on this." That's the only guy that's ever said that to me ever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know? So it was like, and the monitor mix was gorgeous. It was glorious. Everybody's like grinning at each other. I mean, if you could only sound that good all the time. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, right.
No, I hear you. I've been thinking a lot about the Les Paul lately too. So it's ironic that
Yeah,
you made.
good timing then. I was thinking I had the thought, it's been like a month or so since we filmed the last video in the series from this, so Tanner and I both have thought.
I watched what you're doing. It was put together nicely. So
Thank you.
good job.
Yeah, thanks. That's mainly Tanner back here. How you doing, by the way?
Doing good.
Good. Okay.
All right, thumbs up. Very good.
Yeah. He's been editing everything, filming everything, doing the sound, and all I have to do is like ramble on camera, kind of. But I was thinking about. Oh, sorry. I was thinking about the Les Paul specifically. Like when I got this one, it was like I'm gonna tell the whole story in the video, but I'll tell you first. It was like I was in 8th grade and I was like homesick on a Tuesday or something, and I didn't know that my dad had like ordered this. So the UPS came, and I think it was still kind of cold out, and I was like, "Oh, what's this?" And it didn't take very long, and so I had all day by myself to just like plug this in and be like just grinning from ear to ear. And I thought about yeah, if there were unboxing videos back in like 2003, I would have done a really good one. But I didn't even have a cell phone then, and I don't know. This harkens back to me like a time before like a lot of distractions like super fast internet or anything, which are like they've been vital to a lot of people like making a living now, truly. But I don't know. It just like when I
You made me think of something.
Yeah.
Can I interrupt you for a second?
Yeah, go ahead.
Forgive me. You made me think about my first guitar was Les Paul and how I got it. All right.
Oh, we would love to hear that. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so I was in high school, graduating, and I received some money for graduation, right? So all of a sudden I get this phone call from a friend, and he says, "There's an ad in the paper for a Marshall amp and a Les Paul guitar for $800. Like 2 cabinets and a head and a Les Paul for $800.
Yeah.
Right? So I called it up, and it turns out this guy just needs bricks for the front of his house, all right? So he's redoing his house, so he wants to sell all this stuff. So I'll never forget going and purchasing it, and I could barely get everything in the car. It was just nuts, all right? So it took me a while to science how to pack, all right? The art of packing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
which proved later to be, an important thing later in life.
For sure.
I'll never forget bringing it home. And my folks looked at this thing. I set this thing up, and it was only like that high from the ceiling, right? Oh, man. I knew I was gone. All right. So
Yeah.
I'll be a musician. Sorry, everybody.
It's like it's this thing of like like the Stooges say, raw power, like you just if you've experienced it, just how I can't really explain. I'm gonna have to do the job of explaining the tone of a Les Paul like in words too in this video, and it's like even on the bridge pickup or something, it's just so thick and heavy, but it cuts
And
through.
if you want to compare it to like Kelly or something too, I mean, You know what I mean? If you can do a side by side or anything like that too.
Right, right.
It, there's yeah, there's and also when I play really extremely clean for jazz, that kind of sound or a jazzy flavor.
Yeah.
The Les Paul or my Paul Reed Smith 2, it's so similar to it. There's something warm about it. I can play at a really low volume and get a gorgeous sound.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just playing clean with this one. It's kind of like I don't know. It sounds like a dime is what like a perfect 10, but like I just mean it sounds like really metallic and warm at the same time. The humbuckers, I mean, the P90s would have a different flavor for sure on the Les Paul. But yeah, there's just certain notes you hit, and they have certain qualities that just sound very. I don't know. I have to find the words again. It's hard because.
It's like home. It sounds like home. It's where you want to live. It's
yeah.
Like great.
Yeah.
Especially if it's set up beautifully. If you're good at that, or if you have someone that really works well, set up your instruments too, and you keep fresh strings on. For me, I'm not one of these guys that can play like really old strings. Every time you see me play, those are new strings. Okay.
Yeah.
And I started getting a little more relaxed and maybe doing 2 gigs with one set of strings.
Sure.
Yeah, I started getting really wild and crazy. But there's something about when you break those in and you get that little period of just when they're staying in tune. Oh man, everything when you're playing chords and intervals, it's more in tune. It sounds beautiful.
Yeah. I guess I should ask what gauge and brand of strings do you like, or does that differ for?
Oh, absolutely. I've been playing D'Addario strings 009 for 25, 30 years, something like that.
Whoa, really? 9s? Wow.
Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
really? Okay, because that's what I played that for a long time, and then on the Strats I went to there's like a 9.5, so it's kind of a hybrid between 9 and 10, and then on everything else.
Really good because this guy has a 7. Have you?
Yeah,
Heard that?
I've seen that pack, and I'm like, I don't know how. That's like
Never
floss.
real.
That's
Never
floss, really. I mean, 9s I could see. 9s are nice, and 10s.
Yeah. Right.
On this Les Paul, I have 11s now, and it's had
Geez.
10s on it for most of its life, and then I'm kind of like taking over it, I guess, for because it kind of just it sits around. It's like a guitar that sits around because it's so fancy. I feel like, but I would like to use it for recording at least a lot because it's just beautiful. But
Good.
I've been getting putting 11s. That's on all my acoustics and stuff. So. And
Yeah, I do 11s on acoustic guitar.
I would, being like largely a jazz guy, I thought you would have like heavier strings, but doing it all with 9s, that's even more impressive.
If you play a couple of my guitars, they're just really low because of the chords I do.
Yeah, that
And,
makes sense too. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just like there's just something about and also it's familiarity. I mean, when you do it for that long, so.
Yeah, I felt like I don't know.
But I must admit though, different scale instruments can warrant different gauges too. I've noticed that between my Tele and the Les Paul and also my Strat. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You could fiddle around with it a little bit. I think that's true.
Yeah, the Jazzmaster, which has kind of been my main guitar recently, that I think warrants 11s. It's so long, It's a long guitar.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you break strings on that a lot because
Really?
of the.
Where do you break them at? The bridge or the nut? Or where?
Yeah, they seem to break by that, the whammy bar unit, down there. But I don't know. It's all right. It's all right because it's fine to change strings often anyway. Like you said, it's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it keeps you humble because when you're not famous and you're out on the road and you don't have roadies doing stuff for you, you sit there and I'm taking your time. It's kind of like a meditation. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like sometimes it's really nice. Sometimes I'm like, oh man, this is. You like poke yourself in the finger sometimes or something. It's like, yeah. but it's gonna.
Well, people don't realize that if you play a gig that's really hot out, I'll have brand new strings. I'll play and they're shot. I can't do anything with them. I mean, like
Right.
when you're really firing, it just you can wipe them off in between every single song. It doesn't matter. But then everybody's acidity is a little bit different too. Whatever. So,
Yeah, I have that issue too. Like anything with old school hardware or finish, it's just like that's gonna be kind of messed up by my sweat right away. This guitar was, and other ones too. When you try to get that like real vintage feel, it's like, well, that's why they're all like, all those Fender necks are like worn down to the wood on the maple. They're like dark now, or vice versa. And people were like smoking cigarettes constantly and drinking beer constantly and playing in bars.
Oh yeah, and this guitar right here, this one it's called a U.S. Masters.
Yeah.
And this is my teaching guitar. I don't know if you can see this, but the wood is all worn away from my fingers.
Yeah.
Dude, this is some serious play. All right, so.
Right. Yeah, I like the way that all looks, because I think that means that it's a good guitar because somebody's been like really enjoying it.
Yeah, mojo. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
There is a difference. The old painters, there was some remarks said about how painters would believe they could imbue their paintings with their intent. All right, so that they could enliven them with energy. And there's something about, but see, people, let's say someone hasn't meditated their whole life, they can argue about certain benefits that you claim and that you have, all right, and have experienced, interior wise, but unless they've done it, they don't. There's no way in the world you're gonna know. All right, you can describe it all you want, but you got to taste orange juice. You just can't talk about oranges and tell somebody about it.
Yeah.
So the same thing with guitar. You play that thing, you touch that thing, you sing along with that thing, and you do those. Oh man, dude, there's a connection there. It's really something. I think it's special.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And
but we're not taught that in schools. We're not taught that in schools. People get all mad and write letters.
Yeah.
You can't teach our kids how to meditate. Oh my God. And this is fact. And it's just like, oh my God, Lord, if we could combine this. One thing that George Harrison did that was so important. And whether or not you believe, you don't have, whether you're a Christian, Hindu, Judaism, whatever you're studying or you follow your path, I'm happy for you, all right? It's a beautiful thing. But no matter what, there's a central energy, all right? And Harrison, helped to show that there's an interior surge as well as the exterior material. I mean, I love things too, so I'm not going to claim I'm going to shoot everything, you know what I mean?
Right.
But it's like, no, man, we could get more into that. The music would change even more. And Hendrix actually tapped onto that. If you listen to that Damn the Gypsies album, I've seen where some real pro jazz players, kids that compare Hendrix to him, and they go, his technique's so much better than Hendrix's, blah, 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 and all that stuff. But the thing is, these guys didn't do the Chipman circuit. These guys didn't play with Little Richard. They didn't play with Ike and Tina Turner. They didn't play with the Isley Brothers. Hendrix, if you listen to House Burning Down off Electric Ladyland, that gut bucket in the pocket sound, none of the fusion guys can do that. I'm sorry. They knew that about Hendrix. All right? They actually did. But a lot of the younger people nowadays are missing that. They're more involved in a lot of the academics. I love a lot of that stuff to study it. But, dude, that doesn't mean I'm going to put that in a song every time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You have to be.
The song for?
You have to be able to use it. Like I said, I think life is about searching. Right. I would agree with that. Like your whole life is about searching. And especially when you can find a way to put that into an expression, how artistically, whether it be through a certain piece of music or even like a whole, chunk of wood that you're playing. I think that's what Hendrix could do. That was his life, his very short life experience. He packed a lot into it, and you could tell.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Dude, are you experienced? Access Bold as Love, Electric Ladyland. I mean, Band of Gypsies. And then you got the Cry of Love. And then you got all this slew of like live stuff and stuff they're still pulling out of the closet. All right. So I mean, and that's when the mythology of like he was always partying or doing all this. There's nobody that could physically do all that and do that amount of work in 5 years. All right, 4 or 5 years of his career, whatever. We're famous. I'm not talking about everything he did before. But come on now, that's hard work,
Yeah, he was partying, but he was also he like slept with his guitar, went to the bathroom with his guitar, and just like he was always
Yeah,
like Coltrane. He would step off of the stage when his solo was over, but he kept playing. It's
yeah, isn't that great?
yeah, it's like
Was it David Crosby or somebody said they went to the bathroom or something, and Coltrane's in the bathroom just going over stuff?
yeah, I heard
I
that
just
one.
thought,
So there's certain people that I think you and I both look at and we're just like, wow, yeah, if we could glean anything off of them, that's a gift. You know, that's a gift for everybody
yeah,
who hears it, and I think those players would have said that too. They're not really super egotistical or anything. Really good
no,
players. They're just like
you know,
trying to, yeah,
in villages and societies, they used to have this thing called a shaman, all right? And kind of like the medical practitioner in a way, too, all right? So,
yeah,
but the thing is, I, I, I adhere to that belief a little bit, all right? It's the way of you're connecting with your surroundings, you know? Big, big important thing. And the arts can actually illuminate that, you know, for others, you know? But it's got to be sincere, you know,
yeah.
really.
Yeah, that's what you can hear. People can have a lot of technique at what they do, and you can appreciate that. But I think,
Oh, I love it. I work hard at that. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and I wanna always keep building my chops constantly at the things I love to do. But it's kind of just like as long as you actually put a lot of feeling into it, earnest feeling, that's still what counts in anything,
Yeah.
and people will hear that.
Oh, and also too, if you play a lot and get a lot of the stuff put into muscle memory, you know, the like more cerebral or analytical way of looking at it, than just that emotional quality to try to become whole, to use both of those elements. I think that's the goal for me is I learn what I can about music, the different eras of music, theory of music and how to apply it. Then the other is I center myself, I try to work on my being, all right, and then react to what's inside, what I want to hear. And sometimes it's just a cry, sometimes it's like humorous, whatever. The music can represent your moods and states and presence and being. It's amazing.
Yeah, yeah, that's where I've been trying to go is probably more of a pure place. Like um, I really love like power pop music is kind of like, like out of Elvis Costello and certainly the Beatles and lots and
Yeah.
lots of people and the rock music that was going on in the '90s and stuff. That's what I heard on the radio, and I think that's what I've been trying to emulate a lot, and to make like a full length like trio album or something like that was my goal for a long time. And I think that's like on the one hand still I always want to be doing that, but I also want to be doing more like stuff where it's just like really emotive and just like um funny and just plain feeling and improvisation and like that
Yeah.
sort of that side of things too. So I think I'm getting to a balance of what I'm putting down on tape, so to speak.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's
Mix
been
the dedication and everything in, but be in the present moment with your playing. You
yeah,
can rehearse, get all that burned in, but then boom, be present for that audience. Be present for yourself when you're playing. Be there.
hmm
And it's what an incredible gift. It's the real deal.
yeah. Okay, so I wanted to show you this shirt again that I'm wearing. It's the Couture shirt.
Oh no way!
Yeah.
I drew that logo.
So okay, I'm glad we're talking to you about this then. So
I remember being at Delta College, sitting with the guys, I believe it was, and going through different fonts and things, and having the ideas and drawing it. So that's fun.
that's awesome. I Brian Henke sent me a picture. There was a black one too, I guess.
Yep.
That looked nice too. I wore this shirt on an album cover. Patinager. Have I sent you that link or anything?
No, yeah, please do. All right, I'll
Okay.
check it out.
Yeah, that's an album I did where I was kind of like going into like I don't know what you would call it, but just playing in like open G tuning a lot and wringing everything out of that I could, you know.
Yeah.
Uh,
My first couple of CDs were all in Dad.
oh, okay, right.
And if you see No Zombie Part 3, that's all Dad. So isn't that wonderful to explore a tuning for what it is? You know what I mean, and see what you can get out of it. Kind of gets you out of playing certain patterns and things too. You know.
Yeah, I think that's very important because standard tuning, it's like maybe that's where you go when you want to master like techniques and certain voicings and stuff. But then you might sound more like yourself in an open tuning because it's kind of all stripped away. I mean, you can find other voicings and stuff, but I really just like that drone. you know,
Yeah.
from all over
Yeah.
the world, people like to use that. And
Oh, absolutely. Oh
yeah,
yeah, totally. And it's really interesting to take the different um, tekas or scales or elements of Indian music, and you start to learn the percussive quality. All right, the what's the name of it? Oh, geez, there's a Salva Ganesh has a DVD out with John McLaughlin and Conical, and it's have you looked into that? Check it out, and
okay.
it's very interesting because it's just a wonderful way of communicating rhythmically with your voice. All right,
Hmm.
and fascinating. But over the top of those drones, going through the different modes, that's pretty enlightening. That's pretty cool. But a lot of things too that a lot of people they'll say we're playing jazz, but droning's cool and mobile's wonderful. But if you learn to play over changes, that'll kick your ass. All right, to learn over key changes, going through and maneuvering, and then being super creative over that.
Yeah.
A lot of players rock don't do that. We're jazz now, okay? And that's not jazz, okay? It's jazzy sounding, okay? Because jazz will kick your butt. All right.
Yeah, that's that. I would say like I could probably play anything, but jazz takes the most concentration and practice. Definitely learning, and
Learning methods to navigate that stuff
yeah,
and everything. Yeah. And even hearing it.
just hearing it, I would say, in ironically the society in America that we live in, where jazz comes from, uh,
Oh, yeah.
most people don't know how to hear it. They don't know how to listen to it. It's a little
Right.
too complex because it's like yeah we without knowing it probably people are just kind of like okay what is the hook or what is maybe even the key or what the tempo that's kind of like I don't know it's good to know those things but
And here's an example of what you're just talking about.
yeah
I played at Espresso Milano for about 20 years, almost 15 to 20 years, right? And I had some people that would come out. This one young lady, she was going with one of the young guys in the band. Okay, this is many, many years ago. And her mother and father would come out with her, and they'd watch. And I could tell her dad this wasn't his kind of music, all right? So, and where are the words, that kind of thing and stuff, all right?
all
And
right
he kept coming out, all right? And he comes up to me one time and he goes, I'm starting to understand a little bit more what you're doing. You say something and this other guy answers it, all right? But the drummer sets up a pattern and you all respond to it. Or you all listen. And the next time around, you all do those accents together. He goes, this is really fun, all right?
yeah
So that was pretty cool that somebody started to, like, take the time to understand what the music can bring to you.
right there's no I don't know people can think that like sort of enhanced forms of expression are like snobby or something just because they don't understand it but it's like I don't think anyone's really trying to do that it's that they're advancing their own stuff and then you have to come to it they're not trying to keep you out of it by being good at what they're doing or being
Yeah.
themselves or being different it's like you that's how I've always felt is like whether I'm making something that is more accessible or more like atonal or something just more sound I think that that's not like an affront to anybody I don't think of it that way I think it's like you just need to like do a little work to come to the piece or whatever and that's on all of us there's stuff that I probably wouldn't like right I think it took me a while to understand how to listen to jazz as well which is perfectly fine absolutely where we're coming from we don't live in like say Brazil or something where they have a lot of different rhythms and different voicings that are normal in their like pop music so we have very simple, you turn on the radio now and it's the most simple, like, and that's to me, the stuff you hear on the radio now is more like atonal than, a free jazz record or anything. It's because there's a lot that's not going on in music anymore. But obviously there's good
Well,
people still
have,
playing.
yeah, I have quite a few people that come in and ask me to like help them over the song, and I can't tell you how many just 3-chord songs are going right now. It's a 4-measure phrase or an 8-measure phrase of just 3 chords or 4, and that's all it is throughout the whole song. And I can't tell you that a lot of that's going on nowadays, and that's okay because what they'll do is they'll take the drums out through this section, add horns through this, more rap in this section or something. But the thing is, it's like, wow, all those years when you spent trying to learn about progressions and modulations and all this thing and how beautiful it really is. There's nothing wrong with party music, don't get me wrong, but it's kind of bizarre when I start to hear like such simplicity, though. You know what I mean? I mean, even the Beatles had an A and a B section. You know what I mean? So it's like, come on now.
It's I know. In talking about this, I think it's kind of like ironic that we live in such an interconnected world. I mean, literally, the world is so small now because you can reach everything at like lightning speed as far as information and stuff. But then the main music you hear on the radio and stuff is just so like dumbed down, and it's not that musical.
Well, and what's strange is the sum total of all human knowledge being available at the touch of a finger. Yeah, that sounds good, but you realize that most people are just pursuing what feels good to them. They're not challenging themselves.
Yeah, true.
People. Maybe I could go here because this could make me think about my belief system in a different way. Oh, I don't want to evolve. Okay, let's go back in here and find something that reinforces my limited beliefs.
Absolutely,
all right? So,
yeah.
I mean, come on now. I mean, that's the problem with the internet now. Is a lot of people won't challenge themselves. All right, can I go here to find this out? Maybe there's a commonality, or at least a tolerance level. When the Dalai Lama said all the major religions, what are some factors that are common through all of them? Love, compassion, and tolerance. Tolerance can be developed by education, all right, and experiential learning. Okay, wow,
Yeah.
But don't get me started on it.
I know. I know, and it's that's good. I think both of us probably we get talking about something, and it's like it's going to encompass about 80 subjects, because they're all connected.
Especially if you're into the arts, dude.
Yeah.
Because you know what I mean. Oh my God.
Yeah. So I guess just for the purposes of this video, I guess if there's anything else you wanted to say about Les Pauls specifically, or like the 70s era,
Okay.
what it was like would be cool. Your day-to-day life, your gigging life.
Okay, well, I'm fortunate to have been like a young, emerging, inquisitive musician at the time and period that I have. Because one thing that is, I mean, it's okay. Here's an analogy. You go to a comedy club and you listen to a comic. You're laughing. I'm like, you're just laughing. You're going crazy. You love this joke. It's excellent. You go home and you tell somebody else. Yeah, it's funny.
Yeah.
And he goes home, tells his wife, it's okay. Then she tells her friend, it's losing steam. And that, I grew up in a real explosive time. Zeppelin and all that type of thing. That was new. That was like, okay, you got this migration from the fields and different elements to the cities. All right. Now, can't hear me. Let's plug it into these radios. All right. Let's do whatever we can to be heard. Then you got people like in England and stuff too that maybe aren't so marred with the civil rights thing like we had right here. They have their own problems too. Don't get me wrong, but and they're looking at it in this fresh, incredible way. Clapton plugs in with John Mayall. Plugs that Les Paul in.
Yeah.
To a Marshall. It changes the world. All right. I mean, how many guitar players have you heard from Carlos Santana to a lot of people talk about Clapton plugging in like that?
Yeah.
So you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that was the original joke, and I'm not making fun of it. I mean, that's the analogy. I mean, it was like boom.
Yeah.
And it's so exciting and explosive, and I'm glad to and experience. So that's wonderful. That's not to say beautiful things can't happen now. You're going to have this amalgamation, like you said, of all these people and cultures and everything, and it's getting beautiful, But there was really something about that, that Les Paul Marshall thing. So
Yeah. Right. I think back to it too, being in the early 2000s playing it. That it's just so simple, right? You just plug right in, and there's so much to do. To one, entertain yourself, and to express yourself, and then like when other people hear it, it's generally pretty nice. So, or it's
full body. It's like if you're into wine at all, it's to me it's a very full bodied wine. All right, it's very full and it's very robust. It has many different flavors. All right, so it just excites the palate. Les Paul does it totally.
Yeah.
Now this is terrible. We're talking like that. I'm going to have to go and buy let me see, a gold top.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm going to be in trouble now. So.
Right. Fortunately, I didn't have to do too much to come across this one, but
Now that's a good thing of the internet. I'll get on there. Who's selling one of these? You know what I mean? Oh my God.
yeah, there's a pair, and I don't want to encourage you too much so that you get into trouble, but there's a pair of these. One, it's a 57 reissue like this one is, and then there's a 56 reissue with the P90s. At this shop in Ferndale, they got them both from the original owner. But that would be so much money. But there you go if you want to look that up.
Okay, thanks.
I don't know. I imagine in an alternate reality that if I hadn't played the Strat for so long, and I have a Squier Strat that was my favorite guitar and still is one of them.
Yeah.
But that's just what I was using, and through a Marshall JCM 900 too for a while. That was my sound. Very Band of Gypsies, I would say. Just a black Strat through a Marshall and crank it, and that's it. But
yeah.
I think in an alternate reality, I probably would have been playing more, the gold top Les Paul probably would have been my favorite thing. Because it's just so creamy and thick and full bodied. And I don't know if my back would have liked standing up all the time with this guitar, but
well, I've had back problems, so I do have to think about those kind of things. It would only be for a set or two.
Right. Right. You got to think about what you want to bring around and stand up with, or I guess people sit down. I think Robert Fripp has been sitting down with the Les Paul for this whole career, basically. So I think it can be done.
Yeah. He's doing a wonderful job.
Yeah. So I don't know. Is there anything else you want to say about Les Pauls or anything? Just for the sake of this, because it's been a really great conversation. In general.
Yeah, and Les Pauls, what I want to say about that is thank God they remain. So there.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we can both die on that hill. That's a good. Yeah. That's good enough.
Totally a blessing. All right. So.
Yeah.
Nice to talk to you, dude.
Yeah, nice to talk to you. Great. We'll let you know when the video's out. I think you'll be in it for a minute or two. Definitely.
Oh, okay. Sounds good. You got a few things you can check and see what works for you. So that's good.
Yeah, great. Well, thank you, Brian.
And the other guy over there, say goodbye for me too.
Yeah.
Yes. Right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. See you later. Have a wonderful one.
Yeah. Have a good weekend. Bye.